Hey up, I'm Nathan Human, and this is episode 17 of The Biscuit Reviews. This episode is not for the faint-hearted, with a macabre double bill of the podcast Noble and the novel Sign Here by Claudia Lux. Noble is a true crime series that definitely warrants its content warning, as it digs up the bones of a 20-year-old case from the town of Noble in Georgia. Amidst the despair and disgust, the outstanding reporting reveals a fascinating portrait of a town and a community torn apart by an astonishing crime. From a metaphorical hell in the real world to a literal hell in the fictional Sign Here by Claudia Lux, where we find recruiter of souls Peyote Trip and his fiendish plan to trick his way out of eternal damnation. We all have our own version of hell, right? Being stuck on public transport with no headphones and people nearby eating and playing music out of their phones as the windows mist up with hot breath and we get stuck in traffic is...
There's literally no one in the world that I don't hate right now.
Yep, all right, calm, it's not actually happening. Sign Here reimagines hell as a sort of sadistic version of The Office. Slightly off the wall, a teensy bit disturbing, with questionable morals and dark humour. Author Claudia Lux takes a simple premise about those condemned to spend eternity working in an office life hell and spins it into a complex generational thriller. Peyote Trip has been in hell for a long time, and he essentially works in recruitment. His job is to identify potential people on Earth that he could offer a deal to. People who are willing to sign over their soul to hell for one wish to come true. I mean, come on, no one would make a trade like that.
I mean, I look at some of the deals made, I say, who the hell made these deals are so bad?
But Pei is also on his own mission, because he has discovered a loophole that means he could have a way of getting back to his life on Earth. He just needs one more deal from the same family he's been following for a century. Meet the Harrisons, Lily and Silas and their teenage son and daughter, Sean and Mickey. We join them on a weekend away by the lake, and to begin with, our attention is on who will Pei try and get to sign their soul away. But we immediately start learning about darker secrets. The questions begin to stack up as the paint peels away from the family facade to reveal the cracks and torrid past that has been glossed over. The main setup of admin hell and Pei on the one last mission trope is a simple and fun premise that also provides some suitably depraved scenes in hell. Although the, oh look, office work can be like hell, and see, that's what hell is, scenes are kind of obvious, they are also too rich of an opportunity to miss, and they are done with cheeky panache. Both plots are complicated by interlopers, with daughter Mickey bringing along a disruptive friend, and Pei trying to get new arrival Cal to help him with his plan. The events in hell move along at a decent pace, in contrast to the more sedate tempo on Earth, and it does feel a little bit like flicking between two very different TV shows, and never really getting into one properly. This shift in tone and style jarred with me for a while, and it wasn't until I put a shift in and chugged through a number of chapters in one go that it felt like it was all starting to come together. Once a twist or two started arriving and the stakes were raised, both stories became a lot more compelling, and I zipped through the second half and appreciated how necessary that carefully constructed build-up was to properly set the stage for a battle of the fates. I can see why this was the type of book to garner superfans as readily as it gained its critics. Yes, it might seem gimmicky, but there is far more depth here with plenty to digest, even if most of the characters are pretty unpalatable. My biscuit rating is a Cadbury's Crunchy Melt Oreo Cream. Devilishly addictive, and it feels just a tiny bit wrong. A reminder that not only can you find the written reviews on the website, but it's also where you can sign up for the free newsletter to keep you up to date. Just go to thebiscuitreviews.co.uk. And we're in full swing with a podcast by children for children about the books they've been enjoying. The Chatterbooks is aimed at primary school age children, and they currently have a competition to win a book. Go to thechatterbooks.co.uk. My next review is about a series that details the gruesome events at a crematorium in Georgia, USA. If you want to avoid that topic, and that's totally understandable, I will not be offended if you decide to turn off right now. The podcast Noble starts with a content warning about graphic descriptions about what happens to bodies when we die, and you should heed it, as the opening introduction immediately gets into the details of how cremating a body works.
This podcast contains graphic descriptions of death and decay. Please listen with care. From Waveland and Campside Media, this is Noble. I'm Sean Raviv. Episode 1, The Gas Man.
It's October 2000, and a man goes to deliver gas to Tri-State Crematory, or as we call it, a crematorium, in Noble, Georgia. As he's looking for the propane tank that needs refilling, he sees something half-hidden that will eventually lead to one of the biggest and most expensive police investigations in the history of the American South. When we hear of someone doing something unthinkable, unconscionable, something so far removed from what we think a human being could be capable of, it is easy to focus on the evil act and be consumed with the why. It is a testament to the journalistic integrity and compassion of writers Sean Raviv and Johnny Kaufman that it is clear from the outset that this podcast will take the time to build relationships and tell the story of the people that live in Noble. Sean Raviv hosts with a warmth towards the people, but also with a storyteller's gift for adding colour and texture to the events and demonstrating why sometimes, when it's done right, audio is the right medium for telling these type of stories. We get the full background on the history of the land around Tri-State Crematory and the Marsh family that came to establish this business, as well as how the youngest, Brent Marsh, came back from college to take it over. Although we begin to fear where this is headed when we hear of a second and then a third corpse sighted on the property, Raviv keeps a handle on the pace and tone, so it is with calm disbelief rather than dramatic excitement that the scale of what has happened is revealed. Whilst there are colourful characters such as defence lawyer McCracken Poston, honestly, a real name that had me immediately Googling to check, that helped lead the story, the real emotional core for me is tended to by Sheila Manis. It would take away the impact of her story to say too much here, but as someone who is personally deeply affected by the bodies found discarded at Tri-State, her response covers the spectrum of human emotion. You might find yourself torn about how she reacts. Indeed, many aspects of this series will challenge you emotionally, but her honest self-reflection makes for compelling listening. As well as a true crime investigation and a fascinating character study, Noble is also a portrait of a small town and the history of life and the people of this area. The thoughtful and evocative drawing of the town's past through narration and sensitive interviews brings some much-needed humanity and empathy into a genre that at times can be guilty of sensationalising and over-dramatising. This outstanding series and its 8 episodes was produced by Wondery, Campsite Media and Waveland and is available now from wherever you get your podcasts. I've put a link in the show notes and at thebiscuitreviews.co.uk. I will be keeping a lookout for whatever that team produces next. My biscuit rating? Well, at the risk of now being frivolous about such a serious podcast, I'm going for a biscuit rating of a golden crunch cream, because whilst there is a tough exterior, this also has a softer heart that left me feeling surprisingly optimistic. That's all for this episode. Thanks again for listening. I'm off for a brew and a bicky. Until next time, ta-ra.